Welcome to the Hidden Why podcast, episode 999. My interview with Dr. Fred Didomenico. We're discussing his book, You Are More Powerful Than You Think. Enjoy. G'day, Dr. Fred. Welcome to the Hidden Why podcast. Great to have you here.
Thanks, sir. It's a great pleasure, and we'll create a great experience today.
Yeah, mate. Looking forward to it. Where are you coming from?
Coming
Where are you
from
at?
Newport Beach, California.
California.
In the sunshine by the ocean.
Dr. Fred Didomenico. Italian surname?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, me too. What and what do you do with yourself, mate? Tell us a bit about your profession there.
Well, I'm a chiropractor. I started as a chiropractor. I definitely knew that was a life purpose. I mean, growing up, I grew up in I love your name, Martinuzzi. I grew up in a very immigrant Italian home. So, very Catholic, but we learned how to have a relationship with God, which was important. So I felt like I was here for a purpose that was kind of, I don't know if it was instilled or very innate. So when I found chiropractic, I knew that was my purpose. And so that was such a strong foundation, that spirituality was such a strong foundation, because when you're an entrepreneur or you have your own business, or even just in life, that gave me such a strong foundation because so many things happen. They're so stressful. And it just gave me the confidence that I knew no matter what was outside of me or how big of the mountain was that was outside of me, that I knew I could get through it. I mean, it may not have felt good, but I knew there was always something better on the other side.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so that gave me a strong foundation. And then, I noticed my patients would say, Dr. Fred, you're always so positive and happy. You know what your purpose is. And they would say, I don't know what my purpose is. And they would look sad. And I would feel compassion. But, then you just kind of go on your thing. And then my second wife, I was divorced first time. My second wife ended up coming down with cancer. And she really didn't want to go through the fight. So about 3 weeks before she died, she was taking a bath. And we were planning her life celebration service. And then all of a sudden she started sobbing out loud, not like crying. I mean, she was crying, almost howling, crying. And I said, sweetheart, what's wrong? And the next thing she said changed my life for the rest of my life. And she said, I don't know if I did what I was supposed to do in this life. And the weight of sadness that I felt was almost, being a chiropractor, was almost spine crushing, right? I mean, it was such a heavy weight on my heart. Yet a few moments later, I felt the contrast that I was. And then a very loud voice, like I'm talking to you in my head, said, no one in my life will ever say that to me again. And so after she passed, I began on a more accelerated spiritual journey, really for kind of selfish reasons, not to go out and change the world, but now I'd already been divorced. Now my wife had passed away.
Yeah.
And I just really wanted to be a great man that would attract the most amazing woman, that I could have an amazingly loving life. All of a sudden, that just became my highest value and priority. Yeah. So I began on this spiritual evolution, and about 5 years later, I was trying to develop a 6-step rehab system, because now I started coaching chiropractors. Yeah. And the acronym H.E.A.L.E.D came on me. Right. And then I started getting all these visions that this is a spiritual and emotional healing system. And so
spiritual and emotional healing. Yeah. Okay. Yep.
So I started writing the book, You're More Powerful Than You Think. I had no idea what I was going to write, but I knew the H.E.A.L.E.D system started with tapping into our innate divinity. We're spirits having a human experience, that we're divine first, how to clear of all the pain of our past, and how to find, discover, live, and fulfill our soul purpose, S-O-U-L. Yeah. So I started writing it. I had no idea what I was going to write, but I had to live it. I was definitely divinely directed through it. It's a culmination. For the previous 25 years, I mean, you know how it is. We read all these books, and there's authors and seminars and teleconferences and blah, blah, blah. But it felt like pieces of a puzzle. When you have a crossword puzzle and you turn the box upside down on your coffee table, and there's just pieces everywhere, but you don't know how to assemble them.
Yeah.
That's what my spirituality felt like. I had all this knowledge, but I had no idea how to put it in my life. And so H.E.A.L.E.D became a system. It's a progressive system. If you just follow the steps, that it will raise your consciousness. So I had to live it, to write it. It completely transformed how I viewed myself. I actually learned to love myself, clear my past, and become a more clear version of who God created me to be. And now I've been teaching it for 12 years.
Wow.
I've taken hundreds of people through it, and we're just about to launch the book and the online system and do all that, bring it out to the world.
Gotcha. So this H.E.A.L.E.D system you've been doing for some time. Then you've come up with the concept, practice it yourself, and then started introducing and coaching others with it.
Well, it was fascinating because I coached my chiropractic clients with it. Yeah. And I noticed, we have these 2.5 day experiences that, I teach a lot of systems and business and all that chiropractic stuff, but the underlying experience is spiritual. And I noticed that within 90 days, their businesses or practices would grow 30 to 50%, but they didn't have enough time to implement the systems.
Yep.
Like I would see people come back, and because they shifted their consciousness, their practices could grow 20% in the first week, and they would sustain it because their consciousness shifted. And then through that, I've helped many doctors become millionaires, whatever, create $1 million practice, but they would all say it wasn't the money that was the most valuable. Their marriages are better. They talk to their kids differently. They have more inner peace. They reach their goals with more joy. There's not as much stress. And those people that went through COVID and are going through it, they weren't worried about anything. Even the people that had to shut down their practices, they weren't stressed about it because they knew they knew how to get through it, that nothing outside is bigger than what's inside.
So essentially we're looking at a H.E.A.L.E.D system, raising our level of consciousness, awareness, becoming more mindful.
Yeah, no question.
That sound right? I guess it's a spiritual journey. What, just going back a second, this whole idea of purpose and what your late wife said, she doesn't know if she lived into her purpose. What do you feel? It's a question that I often bring up in the show. Do you feel there is this innate purpose in us, or is it something that we find, through the searching? And obviously, the higher our level of awareness, the better we're going to find it. But is it something that's pre-existing, or we have to just go out there and find it?
Well, my personal belief is, we're spirits first, so we are eternal. We're not born. We're born. This body is born, and this body will pass, but we're eternal divine beings. So I believe we come into this life with a predestined purpose. We don't always know what it is, and some people do. You look at these, you just get on YouTube today, and you look at these kids. They're like 4 years old, and they're playing rock and roll like the original artists, you see these teenagers that are playing guitars like Eddie Van Halen. Yeah. Or you hear, it's so funny. And you hear these people, kids or whatever, that they've always loved to sing, or they've always were very dramatic, or they were always a musician, or they always geared towards Legos, and then they become an engineer. We come in with the innate characteristics that are aligned with our purpose. The question is, what process do you have to go through in life to discover it?
Yeah, because I think, does purpose change as well?
Well, there's no question. Yeah, my original purpose was in practice. I thought I would keel over dead at, 100 years old adjusting someone. I never thought I'd be doing what I do. So it definitely changes. And I find a lot of people, they get older, their kids are grown, maybe their marriage with their spouse has grown apart. And I run into people all the time. They're in their 50s. They've been married for, 28 years. And now they find whether they get divorced or whether, they're not divorced. But then all of a sudden their purpose as a parent, not that it's over, but now they want to do something for themselves. Or I hear a lot that people start careers in careers their parents want them to be in. Well, I became a doctor because that's what my dad wanted me to do.
Yeah.
I became a lawyer, but really I wanted to be a sculptor, or I wanted to be an artist, or I wanted to be a musician, but you can't make money being a musician. You hear all these stories all the time. And then, one of the things that questions you asked, what's the definition of success? And success can be determined by the world, and that's what a lot of people do at first. Success is also the enemy of fulfillment, because we can become successful and become complacent, yet we feel like there's something more that we should be doing. So I look at the difference between success and fulfillment. And to me, fulfillment is related to your purpose.
Yeah.
You can be successful and not on your purpose, and look around, and I hear this too a lot, that people I should feel grateful for everything where I'm at, and they convince themselves that they're happy, yet they have this feeling in their chest they're supposed to be doing something different or something more than the way they're living right now.
Yeah, a lot of that missing in the world, I think, for many.
Well, yeah, and you look at with all this stuff going on in the world, and suicide rate is through the roof. Alcoholism and addiction is through the roof. Domestic violence is through the roof.
What are the figures on that? Because I keep hearing this, and I don't really look into it, and I should, because I'm curious. Do you know any of the, since the COVID pandemic began, what sort of figures we're looking at? I guess it's different country by country, but
yeah,
certainly this has shaken a lot of the mental health of people.
Oh, no question. I can't quote the actual accuracy.
I'll have to look into it. Yeah, it's interesting.
But I do know the CDC quoted that 1 out of 6 kids is diagnosed, and this is between, I believe it's 4 and 10.
Yeah.
1 out of 6 is clinically depressed. So that means how many kids are out there?
That's freaking crazy.
Well, those are diagnosed.
That's a shame, isn't it?
Well, that doesn't even include the kids that aren't going to doctors, right? So that's 1 in 6. The suicide rate with kids 10 to 24, young adults, I think has quadrupled. The suicide is the second leading cause under trauma for death in young adults right now.
Yeah, wow.
And I have many parents because of this. I have moms calling me. I got a 22-year-old son. I'm worried he's going to kill himself. Can you talk to him? I get these calls of parents worried about their kids between 18 and 26.
What do you do when you get a call like that?
I'll talk to them. I'll find out what their problem is.
Talk to the parents or talk to the kids?
Focus. What are they focused on? And the thing is that may be an age where they haven't figured out their purpose. Some of them I haven't gotten calls back, and some of them I get conversations. So some of them I never hear back from the mom or the kid, and I don't know what happened. They got to be ready to change. And other ones, I've sat there and taken these kids out to young adults out to lunch. I give them hope. And the reality is they don't understand themselves. And the parents, because there's so much lack of certainty outside, a lot of it is the parents are trying to control the kids and tell them where to go. And these kids are like, I don't want to live the life that you're making me live. And so
do you think that's what's changed it? Because, I just try and reflect that to my childhood. And, our children live, essentially there's everything the same is there, but they live differently. More attached to their screens, there's more. I just look at it. My kids walk home from school from time to time, and it's just not the done thing anymore. Parents are helicopter parents. They're picking up their kids, dropping them off, and no, you can't walk home. It's actually, I think, illegal for our kids to be walking home, and I just think it's damn crazy. We're not giving our kids the authority to learn and experience life so they can know and figure out purpose.
Well, there's no question about that. In Australia, I know the islands, because you're obviously on an island. Islands are very strict.
Big bloody island too.
Yeah, it is. It's got a big center in there too. Yeah. And so I know that you guys are more strict than where we are at. So it's got to be tough.
Yeah, it's just interesting. But what do you feel like? Is it because I'm still trying to figure out purpose, and my whole show is dedicated to that. That's probably why. And I think I'm connecting the dots, as I grow older and I guess wiser, I hope wiser. I'm still unwise in many ways, but as I progress, I feel like it's just fine tuning, constantly fine tuning, and it's never going to end. I think I'll be, 60, 80, 100, whenever it might end, and still in that part, of progression. But I think I'm starting to be more aligned, and I think it's from this idea of a spiritual journey. I certainly don't think I would have got here if I didn't start, a mindfulness practice, for example.
Well, I think that's definitely the foundation.
Yeah.
I know, no question, that my purposes came through prayer. When I was in undergraduate school, I was
a religious man.
What's that?
You're a religious man?
Well, I was raised in religion, but I'm not. I mean, I appreciate religion, but no, I'm not. I was raised Catholic, but I always questioned a lot of the tenets, and of course, the answer was, well, that's what the Bible says. Well, that wasn't good enough, right? So once I moved out of the house, then I began my own journey. But I know my answers came from prayer, but it was my foundation that gave me the confidence in those answers. Like when I was in undergraduate school, I was pre-med, but I didn't want to be a medical doctor. I thought I was going to be a physical therapist. But I was praying, what do I do? What do I do? And a chiropractic school sent me a pamphlet. And I got the pamphlet, like, what the heck is this? And I threw it out. Chiropractors don't know anything. And I got a second one, and I threw it at it again. Chiropractors are dumb. And then I got a third one. But I already know spiritually, when something happens 3 times in my life, God is calling me in that direction. Right. So I went and applied to chiropractic school. I had no idea what it was, but I knew that was the third sign. That's what I was supposed to do. And I went into chiropractic school having no idea what chiropractic was.
There you go. Follow your intuition.
Yeah, and that's it. And writing this book, I wrote it a lot through prayer. There was a lot of spiritual downloads where I had visions, and I would start writing, and I would just write many times feverishly for like a half hour or 40 minutes, and then I would go back and read what I just wrote and thought, I did not know that 31 minutes ago. Like I did not have any previous knowledge of what I just wrote. It was totally a divine download. So I think spirituality and your faith is the foundation for everything, because no matter, even in today, I mean, we're talking about, you got to be careful about your vocabulary on podcasts, but, they're talking about the shot and passports and all these things and where's the world really going. But I do know that universal love and God wins. So I know that we may have to go through some darkness, but there is always light. Yeah. We always come into the light.
Yeah.
So that faith lets me know that I can look at what's going on, and being a healthcare provider, it can be very depressing, but I know we're going to get through it, and and the people like you and I and everybody here, when you take a stand, you send out information like what you're doing, that we get the ability to create the new world. Because there will be a new world that's in process. Yeah. And we get to create it.
Absolutely. And I think in the individual life in societies, a gathering of people, there's always going to be that challenge, right. But there's always that light, like you said. This H.E.A.L.E.D system, talk to us about H.E.A.L.E.D. Is it an acronym? Like what is
It is an acronym, yes. It starts with honor God within yourself, and that's principle. Wayne Dyer coined a phrase. He said, we're not human beings seeking spiritual experiences. We're spirits having a human experience. So once I like that. And I take you through all these exercises and things so you can actually feel God's spirit inside you. And then once you get that, then you realize, wow, if we're having a human experience, then I can choose. There's a whole spectrum of emotions that we can experience. It gives you a whole new, more powerful insight. Yeah. Because whether you're angry or depressed, I mean, from anywhere from depression or suicide all the way into total bliss, that's part of a human experience. So all of them can be appreciated the same. The question is, what are you focused on? So once you get that, then E is exercise loving yourself and others. So once you understand I am divine, my spirit is love, that fear is learned, love is who you are, and it takes you through all these exercises. and you actually get to experience even if you have moments of what it's like to feel, to love yourself like God loves you. Even if you have moments, you can turn moments into a lifetime or into a lifestyle. So that was really, that chapter changed my life. I mean, it took me 4 months to write H, and it took me almost a year. So just real quick, when I started that chapter, the first sentence I wrote is, if I asked you if you love you, what would you say? If you love yourself, what would you say? And of course, writing that, I went, sure, I love myself. Of course, I think I'm cool, whatever.
But you said at the start of the interview too that you struggled with this personally, didn't you? Like loving yourself, and having that sense of self-compassion. Why do you think that is?
Well, it was my human experience. So anyway, the next sentence was, if I asked you, do you love yourself like God loves you? And I didn't write that. That just came out of me. What would you say? And I wrote that. I put a period at the end of the sentence, and I said, I have no idea what that's like. And then I prayed, God, you have to show me, give me a book, give me a teacher. And that one chapter took a year to write because I had to live it to write it. And I became a more clear version of myself. After that, the rest of the book was almost downhill.
Yeah, cool.
So then A is accepting forgiveness for yourself and others. So once you love yourself, then you learn how to reframe all the experiences in your life. And many of our most painful experiences is leading us to our soul purpose. So watching my wife take her last breath was exponentially the greatest, hardest experience in my life. That is exponentially greater and more painful than any other experience. But out of it came this book that will change the lives of millions of people around the world. I probably would not have written this book if I didn't go through that. So you learn that, people say, find what you love and then do what you love. But I love skiing, but I'm not supposed to be a ski instructor. I love martial arts, but I'm not going to get in a UFC cage.
Yeah. No, I agree. And I talk about passion in a lot of my talks, and finding your passion and doing that as your occupation. But I agree with what you're saying. It doesn't have to be. You can be passionate about you're obviously very passionate about what you do, for a career.
Yes, oh, definitely.
And you love it. But before you loved it, you didn't know that love was there for it. You knew you loved skiing because you did that, but you have to sometimes get into things and try different things to really find that passion too.
Well, and people say, find what you're passionate about, and that's your purpose. And like what we're saying, find your purpose and you'll become passionate. I had no idea what chiropractic was, but that's my life. Yeah.
And even in your early days of the career, maybe, you had that passion at the start, and most people do when you start something new, and then that can sort of fade away, can't it? But you grow it as you find more purpose with what you do, and you've obviously done that, transitioning to helping people now heal.
Yeah, there's no question. So, I and that's later in the chapter. Anyway, L is living in now, so I'll get to the second E. L is living in now. When you get rid of all the emotional energy, you have presence, come into present time, and then you quiet all the emotional noise in your head, and then you can hear the whispers of your intuition that are guiding you. And then the next one is establish your purpose and mission, and that's what we're talking about now. And a lot of times your purpose can be something you hate. Like I wouldn't say hate, but I will use the word hate. I hate sex trafficking. So I'm going to take, when this gets off the ground, I'm going to take money and devote it to people that are trying to eliminate sex trafficking. I don't like addiction. That's a big problem. We're going to create a whole branch of H.E.A.L.E.D to help addicts, which I've already done.
Yeah.
So you take a woman that's been raped. I was actually talking to a woman the other day, went through a highly abusive, physically abusive marriage. And now she helps abused women get out of the house and get out of those relationships and start a new life. So many times our purpose comes from our greatest pain, which is why we go through it. Yeah. So I interviewed this other woman that grew up sexually and physically abused on our podcast, Resurrecting Our Freedom.
Yeah.
And she looked back, and now that's what she does. She helps abused women. But it was interesting. By the end of the time she told her story, she goes, I wouldn't trade 1 second of that abuse because I'm doing what I do now.
Yeah. That's amazing, huh?
That's fulfillment.
I was just talking to a friend of mine last night about this, and, I've had a fairly bloody good upbringing, to be honest, and I'm very grateful for that. But I know there's a lot of people out there that haven't. And I was asking him, and we were discussing it. There's some people, like I look at Tony Robbins, and he had an abusive upbringing with his mother, and he's exactly the same. He says, that's the best thing that happened to me, and I'm grateful for that. She didn't know any better. She did the best she knew what to do with. And it wasn't great, but it made him who he is today and helping, millions as well. Do you think that's something that people just get lucky with or unlucky with, like going through that conditioning and either coming out the other end a victor or a victim?
Well, I don't think it has anything to do with luck, because when we go back to honor God within yourself, I believe we came in with the knowledge, spiritual knowledge of what we were going to go through. We don't have the cognitive knowledge in our human experience.
Yeah.
I'm sure when he was struggling for food and being abused, he didn't see himself doing what he's doing today.
No.
But it certainly gave, when he went and he talks about his mentor, Jim Rohn. So when he finally went to that seminar and it tapped into his purpose, and then, talk about passion, when you look at his schedule, my God, how he even does what he does, he's superhuman.
Yeah, yeah.
But that's the power of inspiration, right?
Right. It's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, it's fascinating. So when people are looking for their purpose, again, I'm just repeating this, don't look for what you love. Sometimes you got to look for, what's that thing that's nagging you? And a lot of times when you're saying someone should do something about that, but then you find yourself saying the same thing, someone should do something about that. Maybe that's you. Maybe that's your purpose. And also when you look at, when there's something that bothers you, but it's so big that it's scary, that's probably your purpose. If you get scared by it, that's telling you it's your purpose. And you may have no idea how to do it. But if you're faithful, God will show you. He's already ahead of you, paving the path. And that's where spirituality and faith becomes not your crutch, but becomes a better path, in my opinion.
Well, it's just aligning the consciousness and subconscious with the direction. Once you plant that seed, it will grow.
Exactly.
I talk to a lot of our clients. I'm in real estate myself, and at the moment, it's a challenge. You can sell for a fairly quick time frame and for a good price, but finding property to go into is very difficult. And I sound a bit spiritual when I say this to clients, but I'm just like, you know what? Once you make a decision that you're selling and you start, putting the things in place, things will align itself, and it's likely that you will find the right home, and you will find a home that will work in time with selling your home. And I don't know if everyone can accept that, but I believe it's not just hippy dippy, doodah. It's actual fact. Once you start making a decision, your subconsciously starts preparing you for what's to come, and then you will find those opportunities.
Well, yeah, and now they're actually turning that into a science called quantum physics, right? There actually is a science. And then you're learning about epigenetics, learning how your belief systems can change your genetics and turn on or turn off genes. When people say something's genetic, well, that could be related to your belief systems, right?
Right. Huh. It's crazy, eh?
Yeah, well, and a lot of things, because people, being a healthcare provider, you'll see health patterns in families.
Yes.
And A, it's related to their spinal structure, and B, it's related to their beliefs, their diets, their lifestyle. So, you follow genetic patterns. Also, you've also adopted, have belief systems wired in your subconscious mind that you're not even aware of.
Yeah. And they talk about trauma being passed through generations as well.
Right.
And that's just crazy to understand as well. Talk to me about this spine. You're talking about a lot of our, just talk to us about the spine. You mentioned spine there.
Well, your spine and nervous system are the foundation of health and life in your body.
Okay.
Because you have a spinal cord that goes down the middle of your spine, and the spinal cord carries energy from the brain to all the organs. So if your spine or posture is out of alignment, it causes stress to the spinal cord and shuts down the energy. So when you're not getting as much energy through your spinal cord, your organs aren't getting as much energy, and they will get sick. And so there's actually a book. I took a bunch of medical research. It's called Back to Health. You can get it at Elite Coaching LLC, E-L-I-T-E Coaching LLC.com.
Yeah. And
you can just order it there. And it took a bunch of medical research because there's a whole new science that you're not seeing on CNN these days. It's called neuroimmunology.
Right.
Your immune system is directly related to your nervous system.
Yep.
And all the organs are. So when you have, the more your spine is out of alignment, the higher the probability you're going to have not only chronic pain and lead to disability, but there's a high correlation and relationship between autoimmune disease, cancers, digestive problems, weakened immune system, allergies, lung problems, asthma. And this is all researched, and even a shortened lifespan.
Right.
This is all researched by medical doctors. Medical doctors are showing the relationship between posture, spinal structure, the function of your spinal cord, and your relationship to your overall health and lifespan.
Yep. That's crazy.
Yeah,
so what do we do? What do we do to ensure that we've got number one, how do we figure out if we've got a good posture or not? I guess that's through just aches and pains, but how can we do this to not, I guess preventative, what can we do? Exercise?
Well, it's not exercise. It's really going to a chiropractor, a very specific chiropractor, because there's lots of chiropractors that don't take x-rays. There's chiropractors that adjust the spine that don't know how to correct spinal structure, because your spine has an optimal structure, and in that optimal structure, your spinal cord works magnificently and will heal a disease. So there's a very particular type of technique I work with. It's called chiropractic biophysics. Mm-hmm. But anyway, so if you go to a CBP doctor, you can go to idealspine.com or go to other doctors that specifically have programs that do pre and post x-rays, that have programs that will change your spinal structure. If you want to learn more about it, seriously, gang, and I appreciate this, is go to Elite Coaching LLC and get the Back to Health book, because that'll show you all the research and will show you how to find a doctor in your area that does these things.
That's great. Yeah.
Well, and the whole thing is now the whole world is stressed because they're having an outside-in form of healthcare. Yeah. In other words, they think there's a virus that can destroy their health. And there's people, what's interesting is the same people that die of a flu are dying of SARS-CoV-2 and the Delta variant. Because when we look, at least in America and in countries in Europe, the average age of death is 2 to 3 years higher than the average lifespan in that country.
Say that again.
The average age of death of COVID is 2 to 3 years higher than the average lifespan in that country. In other words, in America, the average age of death of COVID is 82. Yep. The average lifespan is 78.
Wow.
So it's showing you the people that are dying are already diagnosed with life-threatening diseases. Now, they say, well, there's young people that are dying. They did a bunch of autopsies in Italy, and when they autopsied these people in their 40s that seemed healthy, they found undiagnosed diseases, undiagnosed autoimmune, undiagnosed cancers. Because you can go through a decade of having cancer forming in your body. We all hear is, wow, I've been getting these chronic stomach aches or headaches or whatever. And then they go to a doctor and it's like, you got a stage 4 brain tumor, or you have cancer throughout your whole colon. So these diseases form without symptomatology. And this is one of the things, I teach a PowerPoint workshop we give to doctors. The most common sign of disease is fatigue. That's
Right.
one of the most common signs that something's going on in your body is your energy is not the same. You could have no pain, but you notice, man, my energy is depleted. I don't feel the same as I used to. That is a sign that something is going on in your body. It's not pain.
Yeah.
So anyway, there's a little mini chiropractic workshop right there.
That's so cool. Very insightful, Dr. Fred. Love it. And it's interesting about the whole COVID thing too. You know, that's just some valid points there.
Well, yeah, and I mean, I've done podcasts with doctors. I know a lot about the vaccination. I mean, we're not going to get into it on this podcast because
I'd like your thoughts. What's this? What are your thoughts on the vaccinations?
Well, my thoughts are the people that are getting vaccinated don't understand it. So, and there's a huge contradiction because first of all, the survival rate up to 60 years old is 99.98.
Yeah.
So there really shouldn't be anybody getting vaccinated under 60. The next thing is they've created, it's an mRNA vaccination. Now, many people don't know what that is. So messenger RNA, the job of RNA is to go into the cell to tell DNA what to do. That's your genetics. So if you create a synthetic RNA, that means it's not man-made. Your body's already going to react against it because your natural immune system is going to see it as foreign. Then it's going to create a synthetic DNA, which now your immune system is going to see that DNA as foreign. And now it's going to start attacking your own genetics. And that sets you up for autoimmune disease. And then the purpose of the DNA is to create these spike proteins and antibodies that are actually superhuman antibodies. But they're only specific for the alpha form, the first form of SARS-CoV-2. So that means they're superhuman antibodies. They will only recognize, so they don't even see the Delta variant. So this is all Greek, right? Alpha, Delta, I don't know what C is. But we're in Delta, then, it goes up to Gamma and all these other versions. Kappa. But it won't recognize them. Now, your natural immune system has non-specific antibodies. I mean, they can fight alpha, beta, delta. They can fight anything. They can fight all the forms of influenza. They can fight HIV. They can fight anything. Yeah. But because they're massively – now the DNA is producing a very specific superhuman antibody that actually suppresses your natural non-specific antibodies that the people that get vaccinated are the ones that are going to be getting sick because now you suppress your natural immune system. You can only fight one type of virus, which leaves you susceptible to every other type of infection that you're going to get. Poof. And so what you're seeing is the majority of these people that are getting sick and hospitalized, I think it was Massachusetts, all 87% of the hospitalizations, at least in America, were vaccinated people. They had another state, 47%. There was another state. I apologize. I didn't know the states. 75% of the hospitalizations are already vaccinated. So the vaccinated people are the ones causing the problem because they don't have the same antibodies that unvaccinated people do. Jeez. So when they're saying now in America, sorry to go on. I'll just a little one.
No. This is I asked, so I'm it's informing.
Well, we have about 150 million people out of 330 million. 150 million have been vaccinated. Yeah. So you're seeing those percentages of hospitalizations are consistent with the vaccination rate or even more, meaning more people that are vaccinated are getting sick than the unvaccinated people, or it's minimally consistent with the vaccination percentage. Yeah. So there's a little bit of science that those are very dangerous vaccinations. And what we're going to see in 2 to 3 years.
I'm guessing you're not vaccinated, Dr. Fred.
What's that? Oh, heck no.
No. What do you say? What are we going to see? 3 to 4 years? More people getting sick?
3 to 4 years, you're going to see autoimmune diseases massively rise because you can't have synthetic DNA and not create a response in your body. I mean, we pray. There are a bunch of placebo vaccinations. Of course, not 100% of the people are going to react this way, but people don't realize what they're seeding their body for.
Yeah, yeah.
And so my recommendation is, if you have gotten one, the people that react the most are the ones, the more shots you get, the higher probability that you're going to have a problem down the road or immediately.
Wow. And they're talking about trialing it on, kids now. Like in Australia, they had an article recently wrote, and I didn't read it all, but, trialing the Moderna vaccination?
Right.
And kids. And I was just like, what? You can't do that. It's crazy.
Well, I did this video that was taken off YouTube in about 10 minutes, but it had 15 whys. And so these are contradictions. And so one of the whys is related to this is, if kids are not a means of transmission, the CDC even admitted kids do not spread the virus, and they even published an article, and we don't even know why. So kids are not a means of transmission up to 20 years old. Then why would they be vaccinated? So, that's a whole nother, deep reason why. We don't need to get into this podcast, but so there's tons of contradictions that are all based on follow the money. Yeah.
And then, people will accuse you of being a conspiracist or, things like that. And I just think it's creating a really divided culture. And that's what I really struggle to handle, is how now they've created this culture, this divide, us versus them, all about the virus that, is very confusing and to a lot of people just doesn't make any sense, like the contradictions out there. And I think that's just going to be very bad for culture. And then this dictatorship of now it's almost mandatory to have a vaccination. If you want to travel, if you want to go to work, potentially send your kids to school, everyone will have to have this vaccination. Not only that, it's this tracking as well. Like, we have to check in everywhere we go and wear masks. Like, I don't know if it's the way to go forward.
Well, here's the bottom line that I would encourage everybody to really contemplate this. And that is, there's so many contradictions, but truth has no contradiction. Truth is truth. The fact that there's so much contradiction shows you that there isn't truth in what's going on. Yeah. There is another agenda. Now, and I'll just add this one thing. The minute they came out with watch out for COVID and SARS-CoV-2 in January 2020 or December, as soon as they said it was from a bat, I knew it was man-made. Because in nature, viruses don't jump species. A bat can never is not going to create a virus that will cause an epidemic. Now, if a bat bites you, you may get rabies, but you're not going to get an epidemic of rabies. That individual will get rabies. So they can transfer an infection, but they can't create an epidemic. And for an animal virus to infect a human, it has to be genetically manufactured. So they can create an infection in your blood, but it can't create an epidemic like this in a bat virus that infects a bat. Like if your dog gets sick, does any human being ever think, my dog's sick, but I'm going to get sick too because my dog's sick? Or do you automatically, innately know that I can't get sick if my dog is sick?
Yeah, good point.
Yeah, because viruses don't jump species. In order to jump species, they have to be genetically manufactured. So as soon as I saw there's a bat creating an epidemic in humans, I already knew there's another agenda. There's something else going on. Hang on to your shorts, because we're going to go through a lot of stuff.
Where do you see it going?
Well, it's where it's already going. They want to get the whole globe vaccinated for, we know the bigger reasons, but I'm not going to get into it now. Otherwise, they wouldn't be forcing it. Why would they have to force it? And it is illegal for a government, even though they say we have power in an epidemic. If they don't create an epidemic, then the government doesn't have power. Yeah. So another big controversy is epidemics are never measured in cases. They're measured in deaths.
Yeah.
So in 2019, 1.4 million people died of tuberculosis. How come we never heard of it? In America, every year, 35 million people every year are diagnosed with influenza. How come that's not an epidemic? 60 to 80,000 people die every year of flu, the same people that are dying of COVID.
Yeah.
So there's no contradiction in truth unless there's another agenda.
Yeah. Yeah.
So don't be victim to another agenda.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, it makes you want to delve into it a bit more, doesn't it? It's interesting stuff. We've delved way off the path of your book. Apologies for that, but it's very interesting anyway. Dr. Fred, where do people reach you and how do they find you and your work? I'll stick a link to your website in here and in your book as well. You've got youaremorepowerful.com. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Is there any other?
If you want back to health, go to Elite, E-L-I-T-E, coaching, LLC.com. And I didn't mean to get off on all that COVID stuff, but I do think it's very important that people question, don't just follow. And the whole premise of this whole thing is when you're spiritually grounded and you know what's inside of you is bigger, that if you doubt anything that's outside of you, follow your gut. Follow your intuition. So I did this spiritual video. I just want to say this one last thing, is if you have a feeling in your gut is a very visceral response. Your gut tells you when to stay away from something. Your gut is related to survival. So if you feel something in your gut is telling you no. If you feel something in your heart, that's spirit and more God related. If you feel a warmth in your heart, then that's yes. So it's listen to your gut, follow your heart, and then act on your mind, or to use your mind.
Use your mind.
So what did I say? Sorry. Listen to your gut, follow your heart, use your mind.
Yeah.
Now, if your mind and your gut are in conflict, then follow your gut. Listen to your gut, because your gut is telling you no. Your mind is trying to justify and make things easier in your life. So sometimes what your gut's going to tell you may be the hard thing, but it's the right thing.
So good. Love it all, mate. Very insightful, very inspiring conversation today. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. And sometimes I tell people, you got to be careful what questions you ask. Otherwise, I might go off for a while.
No, but so good. And that's why I love what I do and the show, because this is the power of conversation. And I just going back to your point, like this whole Bitcoin thing, if we go on a different tangent again, but, I was looking into it and I probably didn't spend enough time looking into it. But it seemed like everyone was doing it. So that's why I was looking into it. And then someone said to me, if you can't invest at least 30 hours of your time understanding it and all the different currencies that are out there, like 30 hours, then don't just go putting your money into it. And I had this gut feeling, this heart feeling, this mind feeling going on, like you said. And I didn't want to invest 30 hours into it. For that reason, I just had to go, look, I'm not going to go forward and do anything further because I don't understand it. I'm not willing to invest the time into it. And it doesn't feel like it's right to me. So those reasons made my decision not to go any further. And I think that'd be the same way with getting a vaccination. If you're not prepared to do the research and really understand it, why would you go out and get a jab in the arm?
Exactly.
And if it doesn't feel right in your gut, why would you go out and get the jab in your arm? And that's where I'm at. It's crazy. Anyway, very insightful, mate. Really appreciate your time today.
Hey, thank you so much. Thank you for the opportunity. I would love to have you. We have a You're More Powerful Facebook page, so I love to have guests that are out there fulfilling their soul purpose. So I'll contact you because I would love to have you as a guest and put you into our group and
that'd be awesome, mate.
Our group to you as well.
Cool. I'd love to do it. Let's do it. And guys, check it out, thehiddenwhy.com. All the links, show notes, the book will be in there as well. So check it out. Until next time, peace, passion, and purpose. Have a great day.
Thank you, my friend.
Thanks, guys, for listening to this episode. I hope you enjoyed what you heard. I hope you love what you're hearing. If you like this episode, guys, or any of the episodes that you're listening to here at The Hidden Why, please do me a favor by sharing it. You can share it with your families. You can share it with your loved ones. You can do that by using your favorite social media channels, using the icons on the platform that you're listening to The Hidden Why podcast. Also, guys, if you're a fan of the show, please connect with me. Connect with me at thehiddenwhy.com. I love to hear from you. I love to converse with the people that listen to this show to find out what they enjoy, what they don't enjoy, and perhaps if they have any questions or feedback for the show as well. You can stay up to date with all that I'm releasing here, guys. I do a solo show every Monday, a 3-minute thought every Thursday. I do 2 interviews a week on a Wednesday and a Saturday, and a book review every Friday. You can stay up to date with all that by subscribing to my newsletter at thehiddenwhy.com. Just enter your email address there, and also subscribing to the podcast on the platform that you choose to listen to your podcasts. You can also support the show, guys, by using the Amazon links at thehiddenwhy.com. So if you like books, you can get all the books that I review there, and anything else really that you like to purchase through Amazon. So use that link, it helps support the show. And we've also got a deal with Audible, guys. Audible is a fantastic way to listen to all your favorite books. We've got a deal with them so you can get 2 free books when you subscribe subscribe to a 30-day free trial. So check that out again at thehiddenwhy.com. Guys, that's it from me. You know what to do. Go out there, breathe more passion into every single moment. Do everything with greater purpose, and in doing so you will discover your hidden why. This is The Hidden Why. My name is Lee Marnuzzi. Until next time, peace, passion and purpose. See you soon.